Hello, everybody. Josh Croup, 13 ABC Action News, back with you here live with our continuing coverage of this nasty weather system that's continuing to make its way through our area. We're monitoring Storm Tracker as it continues to move throughout Lucas County, which could see very different snow totals depending on where you're at in the county. We also have a team of reporters out and about right now. 13 ABC Sean Haggerty there with the Ottawa River behind him. If you caught the very beginning of this broadcast, you saw the nasty waves along Lake Erie that Sean was looking at earlier. Going to get to him in just a second, but first, Willie Danley standing by in Blissfield. It is pretty heavily snowing there, Willie. The conditions are getting more and more sour by the minute. What are the conditions like there in Lenawee County? Walk us through it.
Josh, you are exactly right. It is snowing pretty profusely out here. On our drive up here through rural Michigan, we can see salt trucks pouring salt onto the road, preparing drivers for what is to come later this evening. If you can look behind me, we're in downtown Blissfield. Drivers are moving pretty slowly as they're preparing for the slick roads that they're only seeing the beginning of. This is actually one of the areas in Lenawee County that was affected by last week's winter storm, where many people went without power, some of them even experiencing flooding in their basements. So this is only the first. It hasn't been snowing down here for very long, and you know, I'm a Georgia boy, so I'm not really used to this. This is uncharted territory for me. So we'll continue to keep you updated with this Michigan weather, and tune in to 13 ABC. Willie Danley.
Yeah, Willie, thank you very much. And we know that you'll be up there in Blissfield throughout the rest of this newscast here in Lenawee County. If you are watching here on Facebook Live, we say hello to you. Let us know what the conditions are like where you are. We're going to check back in with Willie throughout the rest of the newscast. But we have Sean Haggerty there with the Ottawa River behind him. Sean, it does not look pretty where you are, per se. Walk us through the conditions that you're seeing. Earlier you were saying that it was kind of hurting your face with the precip that was landing. What kind of precipitation are you seeing out there right now?
Yeah, this is some sort of frozen precipitation, hail, sleet, I don't know what you'd call it, but a couple of them actually just kind of caught me right under the eye because of the way the wind is blowing out here. So just, you know, obviously not major injuries, but an inconvenience and annoyance to say the least. So let's start by showing you the river here, the Ottawa River. We're in Point Place right next to the Lost Peninsula Marina on the other side of the road of it. And the water's decently high. It's kind of almost touching these docks here of one of these restaurants up here, and it's moving fairly quickly, and you see some decent ripples. But we had the Lake Erie video there on the other side of Point Place, and it was churning pretty well out there. The waves were decently high. In talking to some people at Cullen Park earlier in the day, they said the water levels are up. I would say they are looking that way over here at the river too. We have not seen major street flooding yet, which is a very good thing. And speaking with the city of Toledo, they've got some pumps out in some different parts of the town, not here in Point Place, but the rest of the city in just a couple spots, one by the zoo, some off Lewis Avenue, just trying to make sure that they don't have any flooding issues on the roads up there. But they're not reporting any flooding issues on the streets here in Point Place. And we've seen that. We've driven around quite a bit today. It's wet, it's soggy, it's drivable, but so far we've not seen any major waterways going into the streets or even into these homes. Obviously, this area right here is very much prepared for something like that, and we've seen the water moving along here in the river, and it's been a little high, and it's hitting the rocks a little bit. We're actually going to go on to the lakeside on Action News at 5 o'clock, but we want to give people a different view here at 4 o'clock. So it is pretty nasty out here with the precipitation, but we're fortunate at this point that we don't have the water coming onto the streets or even to this driveway here, for example. But you've heard the meteorologists say, Josh, and I'm sure you've been saying it to folks as well, that this storm is not over. It's going to continue throughout the evening. So in a decent shape, I guess I would say at this point, but it certainly sounds like more is coming.
It certainly does. Sean Haggerty out there at Point Place. Got to continue to get updates from around there. And Sean, the video that you had earlier today, the winds whipping around there, this was an hour or so ago, I would say, with the winds that you were seeing along the lakeshore kicking up there. The last time you were out here covering flooding, covering anything like this in Point Place, compare this to other storms, other situations you've been in, I guess is the question I'm trying to get across to you.
Yeah, for one, it's much colder, especially when you see these in the summer and you see some of these. So that's one thing that's factoring into this. And the good news is that we haven't seen it getting into the neighborhoods and getting into the streets yet. The city has the pumps that it could use here in Point Place. It could be working with the gate system that it has as well. But you don't see any major of those issues right now. You don't see people, you see no sandbags, and frankly, you don't see a lot of people rustling around or trying to do any major preparations at this point.
I want to take the people back outside above our station.
Yes.
If you've been with us here, you've been watching this picture develop. This is live right now above our West Toledo studios. The camera's shaking pretty good. It is now covered in rain. There is no visibility.
Yeah, the raindrops hitting the lens there. You can't really see a whole lot there, but boy, radar is just lighting up. We've seen some lightning strikes around. Maybe if you're in West Toledo, hearing some of those rumble of thunder. One of those there in West Toledo near Johnson Corner. Another one also out towards Holland, that direction as well, but not a ton of lightning, but that doesn't mean that it's nothing you should ignore. It's still strong winds. That severe thunderstorm warning for Wood and Lucas County. That continues through 3 p.m. and again, that is for winds gusting to 60 miles per hour. And the other warning we currently have in the viewing area is to the south. That is down for part of Putnam and Allen County for that part of the line as well. Also seeing gusts to 60 miles per hour, but that is through 2:45 p.m. So that'll be expiring here in about 6 minutes. In between, no warnings at the moment, but still winds could be gusting 40 to 50 miles per hour where you don't have a warning. In the pink, if you're just joining us, that is a severe thunderstorm watch. That is Lucas, Wood, Hancock counties eastward. Still a tornado watch there lingering west of 75, but they've already expired that for Hillsdale and Williams County. Likely going to be expiring that quickly within the next half hour to an hour once that line is off to the east.
Can you show us what the people in Bowling Green and Wood County are seeing, or even southern Lucas County and White House and Waterville and those areas?
Yeah, likely White House, Waterville just saw or currently is seeing some of that heaviest rain falling. Fallen Timbers seeing that, Waterville right there along the river, getting torrential rainfall. Now crossing the river, Haskins into Roachton, Perrysburg, Levis Commons area, Maumee, seeing the worst of it right now. The heaviest of the rain, the strongest of the winds, that is happening right now. But it's not going to last long. Only about 5 to 10 minutes. This line's going to come shooting through, and then it will be off to the east. But also along Airport Highway, also moving towards downtown Toledo, that core, the heaviest rain there in the dark red. And again, main concern with these storms, 60-mile-an-hour winds.
And we had mentioned that there are some schools that are taking action early. Anthony Wayne Local Schools is the one noteworthy one that we have seen so far, holding student dismissal until the severe thunderstorm warning passes. If we get any others, we'll let you know. How strong are the winds with this thing right now? We know that the system itself is moving fast, but in terms of the wind gusts,
honestly, the potential wind gusts are about as fast as the forward speed of this storm. So the storms are moving about 60 miles per hour, and those are some of the highest gusts we could see. And just to time it out, Bowling Green, 3 minutes away. So that storm, the winds, you just want to get inside. And I think it's such a smart move that the schools are doing what they're doing, even though there's no tornado warnings at the moment. With a storm like this, with the notches in the line, you get a quick spin up, and it may not even be caught on radar, but that's nothing you want to be outside. And so keeping the kids inside, maybe just an extra 20 to 30 minutes, letting this line of storms get through, a smart decision. And Woodville coming up at 2:58 p.m., Fremont at 3:13, Port Clinton at 3:20, Margaret at 3:29, Sandusky at 3:34. So now we're starting to talk about more of our eastern cities coming up here in the next half hour to 45 minutes with this storm.
Jody says she's seeing flash flooding in South Toledo. Let us know a little bit more about that, Jody.
Yes,
send us
please do.
pictures if you have some. Where at and what are you seeing? Torrential rain in Perrysburg just started in downtown. Thanks for that report, Rachel. Let us know what you're seeing outside of your area or outside of your window right now. Send us your photos on 13abc.com. We're watching out for those, and I'll show some of them as they come in today as we start to get some of those approved. Not a ton coming in right now, but I'm sure that as more of you continue to see this system pass through outside of your area, you will be so kind as to share your images.
Very heavy
with us.
downpours right now in Rossford, just northeast of Maumee. The heaviest downtown Toledo, really getting into it right now. Reduced visibility, torrential rain just came through West Toledo there as well. Going to be moving up the Maumee River. Really, this core is heading out towards Maumee Bay. So Point Place, not pouring there yet, but give it 5 minutes at most as this tracks northeast at 60 miles per hour. So about as fast as you could take 475 east up to 75 into Michigan, maybe even a little faster That's how quick the storm is moving.
This photo was sent to us from Ottawa, and you could see the rain coming down pretty good there at the Advanced Auto Parts and the Arby's. Good day to stay inside there and eat your meal maybe inside instead of going through the drive-thru. Send us pictures like these. We want to see them as we continue to monitor the radar there.
And the strongest part of that line is, up our direction, but also, through Ottawa now, the main part of that line. But Findlay, it's coming down the pipe for you guys shortly. So just for our southern counties, so we don't forget about you to time this out, we're going to go ahead and draw the line here, drag it to the east-northeast. That's where it's going at about 60 miles per hour, just booking along with these high upper-level winds to push them along. Bowling Green at 2:44 p.m., so 1 minute from now exactly.
So Josh, as soon as we get more information, we're going to bring it to you. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
One quick follow-up for you, Alexis. No police are hurt. Police say there's no imminent threat to the public either with this. You say the police chief is actually on the scene. Chief Mike Trenley, of course, just officially sworn in this week. In your experience with these incidents, is this something that a police chief is always on the scene for whenever we had Chief Crawl in office?
Well, I was pretty much surprised to see him when I got here on the scene, but then we learned that it was an officer-involved shooting, so obviously there was possibly shots fired at officers, and obviously an officer fired their weapons. So, it's like any other police chief would want to come to the scene, make sure that their officers are okay. It didn't seem like he was rushing to the hospital. So as I was talking to a number of officers, just asking them, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? And they were like shaking their heads like, yeah, we're good. We're good. So he came to the scene. He was briefed on a little bit of information. The police PIO for the Toledo Police Department is going to brief us once the detectives come over and give him some information. But yeah, he was here making sure that he checked on his officers, assessing the situation and determining kind of, what happened.
Okay, Alexis Means, this story just beginning. As soon as you get more information, let us know. We will be right back on with our viewers here, live streaming this wherever you are watching, and give you an update. Alexis Means reporting live there at the scene. We do appreciate it. Our coverage will continue of this story here throughout the rest of this day as we continue to learn more information.
Thank you. We'll be in recess.
All right, that is the verdict coming from Lucas County Common Pleas Judge Eric Allen Marks. Guilty on all counts, sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Kevin Moore, age 29, exiting the courtroom here now. Accused of and found guilty today of murdering two Toledo boys on the left side of your screen and the right side of your screen. Amir Phillips and Gabriel Phillips, murdered by Kevin Moore. The judge saying that he also shot Ashton Phillips, 4 years old at the time, rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Ashton did survive the shooting, and you heard the victim impact statements delivered there from the grandmother, read by somebody else in the courtroom. You can imagine the emotions that were in there today. The grandmother saying that this has been 2 years of guilt and trauma that have been plaguing her, 2 years too long, but happy that she has justice that her grandbabies deserved. The judge saying at that point, making the point to say that as a society we need to learn from this case because they couldn't keep guns. We as a society couldn't keep guns out of the hands of this man, of Kevin Moore, which led to this shooting. He said he had a history, Kevin Moore did, of violent tendencies, a history of mental illness. That should have prevented him from getting a gun. It did not in this case. He tried to plead not guilty by reason of insanity. The judge did not buy that argument. A couple of the explanations that he gave for not buying that argument included the fact that during the trial, he said Kevin Moore couldn't look up. He couldn't make eye contact with the videos or the photos that were being played during this trial. He couldn't bring himself to watch what was unfolding on the screen. Scenes like this with the police body cam on this side of your screen showing the officers storming the apartments, the Burnport apartments, their guns drawn as Kevin Moore exited. Body camera showing and the police officers at the time having a really emotional response to this, seeing a horrific scene with 3 children shot inside of this apartment. The judge said you couldn't watch these videos in the courtroom. You knew at some point that what you were doing was wrong. you knew at some point the gravity of the situation and you understood the act and the trauma that you were causing. He said the time in prison for you does not have to be unproductive. The defense counsel did ask for some leniency in choosing a facility, one that will provide mental health care treatment for Kevin Moore, who had that statement read that you heard, and I saw a lot of you commenting about, where he did apologize and said that he can't give back what is taken. A jam-packed week of news here in Northwest Ohio, Southeast Michigan. Plenty of things going on today that we need to discuss. Hello, everybody. Welcome into Action News Now on your Friday. I'm Josh Croup. This behind me, one of the big things that we're following today, and we will continue to follow here in the days to come. A first alert weather day issued for Wednesday. We'll discuss the flash freeze that is likely Tuesday night into Wednesday that could affect one of the busiest travel days of the year here coming up. Point of the program here, every Friday at 1 o'clock, we gather to talk about some of the stories that you may have missed over the course of the last week in our Week in Review newscast. Digital exclusive here on 13abc.com or wherever you stream 13 Action News. If you can't hang out with us for the entire program, we do this. We put 90 seconds on the clock, get you in and out with some of our biggest stories in the Action News in 90. And let's start the clock here and go over to Sidecut Metro Park. Police say a 76-year-old man involved in a fight here has died. An autopsy showed John Meeker suffered blunt head trauma that included a skull fracture. But the circumstances surrounding his death still under investigation. Maumee police are taking the lead on this now. They're asking for anybody with information to reach out. Elsewhere, police looking for suspects in a double homicide that happened Tuesday night in Toledo. Police say two 21-year-old men were shot to death in a car near Rosedale and Bluff. Toledo now has 34 homicides this year, down from 66 reported last year. General Motors becomes the first of the big three Detroit automakers to reach a deal with union members. 54% of UAW members across the country have voted in favor of their tentative agreement with the automaker. That does not include workers in Toledo who rejected the deal. Voting continues, meantime, at Stellantis and Ford. More problems up north. Michigan's Jim Harbaugh going to serve out his suspension. And the Big Ten Conference is ending its investigation into the football coach. An agreement to resolve the university's lawsuit against the conference. It means that Harbaugh will have to sit out against Maryland Saturday and Ohio State next week. The university was challenging the 3-game suspension handed down by the Big Ten. The NCAA's investigation continues, meanwhile, into the sign-stealing allegations scheme. And finally, it is the big night we've all been waiting here for at 13 Action News. Set your alarm, 7 o'clock p.m. tonight. Town Center at Levis Commons. Tree lighting special right here on 13 ABC. As you see there, festivities begin at 4 p.m. ahead of that tree lighting special. With that, you are caught up to speed here on your Friday afternoon with just some of the big stories that you may have missed over the course of the last week. Plenty of other things to get to here on the program today, including the deal rejected by GM workers that we just talked about. The voting process underway for Stellantis and Ford, we'll tell you about that. But also another strike happened in Toledo this week, and then just like that, it was over. We'll catch you up to speed on that if you may have missed it. Also, a bloody doll in a yard. A disturbing discovery for one family, why they believe they were targeted with this act. Urgent cares, closing, condensing. Does it affect you in your neighborhood? We'll let you know later up. Also, a road tax. Expect it to be back on the ballot come March of next year. Alongside your vote for president, for the primary race, you could also vote to decide whether or not you should keep having tax dollars go to fix roads in Toledo. Also, big millionaire now in Swanton as a result of a big jackpot earlier this week. Let's talk about things happening today, and the elephant in the room, the big red elephant in the room behind me. First alert weather day declared for Wednesday. Why this early? Trying to get you ahead of this thing that's coming in next week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's a big system according to our first alert weather team. They want to get you ahead of this. Here are the highlights that they're pointing out, according to Derek Witt and company, who was pictured here talking about this earlier on Action News Now. Tuesday going to be rainy and breezy. We see that flash freeze come in Tuesday night into Wednesday that could make for some slick roads and tough travel conditions on Wednesday. Also, light snow is possible, but they're really concerned about those slick roads with the potential flash freeze that's going to hit the area Tuesday night into Wednesday. It's going to be cold on Thanksgiving, potentially the coldest in a decade, with some flurries possible as well. So Derek's going to join us here on the program. If you're interested in learning more about this here, stick around with us for the next few minutes, and Derek's going to pop over. He was just wrapping up Action News at noon, but if you don't want to stick around for that, you want to get that right now, head over to our website or wherever you're streaming this, and you can watch that full debrief that we did earlier on Action News Now discussing that first alert weather day. It's an 8-minute watch. It'll get you informed on everything you need to know. We're also following this on our website. Teen was gave their 33-year-old boyfriend a 5-hour ultimatum to kill his mother. That is the headline coming out of court this morning. A lot of interesting and intriguing races here at the local level, a lot of levies, city council races with people who are getting into politics maybe for the first time, people trying to hang on to their seats, school board issues, a lot to talk about at the local level. What's been catching your eye here over the course of the last few weeks?
Money issues, Josh. In some of our biggest school districts, TPS, a couple of renewals on the ballot. Generally, we look for those renewals to pass. Do you have some numbers yet? I know you're scrambling here, but yeah, it looks like issue 10, a renewal, and issue 9, another renewal. So those look like they're in pretty good shape early on, right? Early on. Sure. But down in Bowling Green, 5th time in 6 years, they've gone to the voters. They want to build a new high school. Opponents say, hey, we can't function with the way that this is an antiquated high school.
Yeah.
Others say the taxes are just too high with the way the ratio is done, property tax, in terms of what you pay to the schools. So that's going to be really interesting. Jed Arespris, our reporters down there watching that tonight. We'll have that. Anthony Wayne going to the voters for new money, a bond issue, for construction of some facility improvements, continued operations, all-day kindergarten, Josh. Don't have that in Anthony Wayne right now. Perrysburg, huge growth, and it continues. So that's another big money issue, another bond issue in the Perrysburg schools. We'll be watching tonight.
Going to go through some of the numbers right now. We'll get you some of the reaction to this news because it's coming in and it's coming in fast. But we have that gold check mark going to the yeses here in the state of Ohio. Let's show you where issue 1 is faring well, and then we'll talk about marijuana here momentarily as well, because no race call for issue 2 at this time, but it is leading by a smaller margin. Let's start by talking about what we're seeing for abortion. The AP race call coming down at 9 p.m. even here in the state of Ohio. Winning a big portion of the vote right now in Northeast Ohio, which is where the yes vote needed to pick up a lot of the victory and not lose ground that it had in August. This was the proxy vote, quote unquote, on abortion that we saw here in Ohio in August. This vote made it so that we could have a 50% vote for this to pass tonight. If this August vote ended up failing, it was a proposal to make it harder to change the state's constitution. If this would have ended up passing, we would have needed 60% tonight in order to pass. We do not need that because it ended up failing. It was a no on issue 1 in August. Look where the vote count is right now, 58% saying yes. So if that ended up passing in August, abortion rights would have likely failed tonight. The cost of safety on school buses. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Action News Now on your Wednesday afternoon. I'm Josh Croup. The topic up for debate over the course of the last several weeks in Ohio that continues is, should the state require school buses to be equipped with seatbelts? Let us know what you think in the comments below. It's our big question right now. Should seatbelts be required on school buses? No matter what you think about the answer, there is going to be a price tag attached to that, and that's what we're going to dive into today. Again, thanks for watching Action News Now. Of course, this debate was really renewed earlier this year after a deadly school bus crash in Clark County killed 1 student and left nearly 24 others injured. Ohio lawmakers right now considering a bill that would require seatbelts. Also, there's a panel that was formed after that deadly crash in Clark County that is looking at that and whether it is feasible or not to require seatbelts on school buses. Ohio is one of close to 40 states that do not require seatbelts. A very small majority of states actually do require it, and part of it is because of the cost associated with this. There are a few districts that have implemented this in recent years that have launched pilot programs, and we'll get into a couple of the results that we have seen from those districts in just a moment. But as for just the price tag portion of this, as you continue to weigh into the comments section below, we do appreciate that, and we'll get to some of those comments here in a second. If you're watching on Facebook, special welcome to everybody watching on our website. This is an analysis done of what that cost would look like by the nonpartisan legislative budget office in Ohio. How they came up with these figures is they looked at the vendor that does maintenance on buses in Franklin County. And so they did the math and extrapolated it. To retrofit a school bus right now with seatbelts costs about $600 per seat between materials and labor. Most of that cost is for the materials. That's for most buses, but there are also buses where you would have to spend another $200 per seat to replace the seat backs. That would total about $800 per seat. So you do the math, comes out to a minimum cost of between $14,400 and $19,200 per bus. So an extra 14 to 19 grand per school bus to implement seatbelts. That comes out to a total cost, if this is a thing that is done statewide, to $282 million on the low end, $376 million on the high end. That cost would likely fall somewhere in the middle if this is something that would be implemented. And again, it's something that is under consideration by officials in the state. That school bus safety working group that we had previously mentioned is looking at this and will consider whether or not to include that in its list of recommendations by the end of the year. Lawmakers are this week hearing testimony and from people on this issue who are for and against it. Not really on board with the idea of spending between $280 and $376 million to implement this statewide.
We all are behind keeping our kids safe. I am concerned about the cost. A lot of us come from districts that don't have the money. I mean, we have a lot of areas that will not be able to come up with this.
Representative Sarah Carruthers, a Republican from Hamilton. So what other districts have done this to this point, and have they seen any good results from this? Air quality alert lasting throughout the rest of this day and tomorrow. Things not really improving much as we go to your Friday. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Action News Now on this Thursday afternoon. I'm Josh Croup, a story that we continue to follow and try and find different angles for you now. What we're talking about this afternoon here on Action News Now on this digital exclusive is what to do if you start to feel the effects of the negative air, whether you're a healthy person, whether you have comorbidities like COPD or asthma. We're going to bring in a ProMedica ER physician who told me that he's seeing anecdotal evidence that there are more people going to the ER to seek treatment for breathing related issues. Now, that's not necessarily the right thing to do, going to the ER. What should you do? That's something we're going to get into with him in just a moment. We'll also talk with the Area Office on Aging about pretty good general advice for the elderly population here in Northwest Ohio about what you need to know surrounding this air quality. We take you out live above our West Toledo studios right now. We continue to track the air quality across Northwest Ohio, and things are not terrible right now, but they're also not ideal. Certain parts of the area, including Adrian, are worse than others. Typically, we're in the green on this map. Right now, much of the area sitting in moderate to unhealthy for sensitive groups. Tomorrow, that orange part of the map could be even broader. We potentially could see even red unhealthy levels on this map. More of the harder impacted areas in the country right now continue to be out on the East Coast, New York City, chief among them. You've been seeing the insane images coming out of New York over the past 24 hours. This is a live look at New York City right now, a much better picture here than what we saw yesterday whenever we were checking in with New York City as that smoke continues to move out. But back here in Northwest Ohio, let's welcome in Dr. Jake Golliver from ProMedica to talk about what he is seeing in the emergency room and the advice that he has for everybody here watching in Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. Give me the top line items that the whole general public needs to know about the air quality alerts that we've been going through this week and that we're going to continue to have over the course of the next couple of days.